Part 2 is an extension of what you're going to end up seeing on tonight's homework, and this is a good example of why we need to learn these statistics and what they're good for. And what it is so that you understand whether people are trying to fool you or not with statistics, because that's what statistics is mainly used for. It's to try to prove a point. Sometimes people skew the data. Skew means to change the data to make it seem like their point or their view is the correct view. And so it's important for you to understand what is right and what is wrong by being able to interpret the data for yourself. And so in this instance, we've got this data from an airline waiting in security checkpoint lines, and these are the number of minutes people end up waiting. And so we want to find out some information. And so we're going to end up having to find out what the mean, the median, the mode are to answer these three questions. So let's go ahead and do that first. So the mean of the data set is the average. So what we're going to end up doing is adding up all these numbers, 10, 32, 10, 14, 8, 12, 16, and 18. So we're adding up all these numbers, and then we end up dividing by the number of numbers, not by 2. Let's fix that number real quick. How many numbers are there? Well, they said there were 8 passengers, and that's the number that we had. So we go ahead and add up all these numbers, and we end up with 120 when you add up those numbers. Divide by 8, hey, it goes in evenly this time, 15. So 15 passengers in this case. Well, we're not done yet. Let's go ahead and figure out the median is so that we can look at that central tendency to determine whether it is a reasonable one to look at or not. And so the first thing we do when we find the median is take these numbers and reorder them. Put them in order from smallest to biggest is what I typically do. So I've got 8, I've got 10, 10 again. And I'm going to put a little dot above the ones I've used. And then the next number is going to end up being 12. Looks like 14 is next. Then I see a 16 and an 18, so I got those. And the last one, ooh, wow, 32. That was a long wait. So go ahead and put those numbers in there. All right, so those are the different numbers that we have for the median. Now let's go ahead and find it. Well, we work our way into the middle. Here's 4 numbers in that data set. These 4 right here, first 4, and here are the last 4. Well, the median is the middle number. It's in between these 2 numbers. And if you're not sure, you could always add the 2 digits and then divide by 2. And that will end up giving us 26 over 2, which you might have already seen as 13. So 13 is the median, and it kind of makes sense. It's right in between 12 and 14. Well, the last one that we want to look at is the mode. Mode means most frequent. What is the most frequent? Well, especially when the numbers are ordered for the median, it's easier to find. See, there are 2 10s. Those occur most. So 10 is the mode. So now we've got those numbers. We can answer numbers 5 and 6 with this information. So a passenger wants to convince the manager of the airport to hire more employees to handle security. So which measure should the passenger use? Okay, if the passenger wants the manager to hire more employees, that must mean that the wait time must be long. So the passenger wants the wait time, we'll say, once the wait time longer is what they want. And so let's look for which one's the longer wait time. 15 minutes, 13 minutes, 10 minutes. So the passenger would end up wanting to use the mean. And the reason why the mean, again, is kind of what we stated before, because it is the measure that makes the wait seem. And again, I'm going to emphasize seem because that's all it is. That's all they're trying to do is make it seem longer, or we'll say longest in this case. Makes the measure is the measure that makes the wait seem longest. So that's why the passenger would want to do that. Again, they're trying to skew the data to make people want to do what they want, and so that's why they'd end up using the mean. Well, the managers of the airport, well, they're not going to want to hire anybody else. Let's see what they say. The managers of the airport want to convince the passengers that the typical wait time to go through security is not very long. Which measure would they want to use and why? Well, we look for the one that's the shortest wait time. Well, we got 15, 13, 10. So we would want to use, if you were the manager, the mode. Again, you're trying to just persuade somebody. You might look at those numbers and say, oh, well, we had one that was really high, so we could take that one out, that 32-minute wait. It's because it was some sort of situation that doesn't happen that often, but it did. And so we're trying to convince them that it's not very long, and the mode would be the one that we'd want to use. And so why the mode? Well, the mode, and we'll say it is the measure that makes the wait seem. And again, I'm going to emphasize seem because that's what you're trying to do. You're just trying to persuade somebody with some statistics. And it may or may not be true. So it's just what that person wants. And so that's why they're going to end up using the mode. Makes it seem shortest. Well, the waiting times for 2 additional passengers are added to the data. Both passengers waited 18 minutes. So 2 waited 18 minutes. So let's do this. Let's figure out our new mean here. So our mean, let's just use this number 120, and let's add in those 2 18s. And then we're going to now divide by 10. So when we add this, we end up with 120 plus 36 when I add those 2 18s together, and that makes 156 over 10. So that makes 15.6. So we figured that the mean would go up. Now notice the reason it went up is because we added numbers that were bigger than most of these numbers in the data set. Look at 18 here. 18 was the second highest, so we added 2 more that were the second highest, which pushed our mean up higher. Well, that's our mean. Now let's take a look at our new median. So our new median, now we have to rewrite those numbers again because we want all those values in there. So let's go ahead and write 8, 10, we got another 10, 12, 14, 16. Now we got 3 18s, 18, 18, 18. And we have that 32. Alright, so let's work our way into the middle. So let's go in 5 spaces. So that's 5 spaces from that side. Let's go 5 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the mean, or the median, is right in between these two. So again, if you're not sure, if the numbers are really far apart, you could always add them together and divide by 2. But you could probably figure this one out. This is just 30 divided by 2 makes 15. And that's the number that's right in between 14 and 16. Alright, let's take a look at the mode. Did the mode change? Well, before it was 10 because there were 2 10s, and that was the most frequent. But now there's 3 18s, and so that's the most frequent. So 18s are new mode. And so which should the managers use now? Well, now the manager's not going to use that mode because it's a lot higher. So they're going to go with the smallest number, and the smallest number is the median. So we'd say the median, and the reason why we'd use the median, it is the measure that makes the wait seem. And again, I'm going to emphasize the word seem because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to persuade somebody. Seem shortest. And so again, the reason why we learn this stuff is so that we have an understanding. We are educated and can make decisions on ourselves, not just by relying on somebody telling us which is the better central tendency or which is the true statement. Because both of these different people here, the passengers wanted something. They wanted the wait time to seem long, so that's why they picked a different central tendency. The managers picked a different one to make it seem short, when in fact it might have been a different one than either two of them. Like for instance, looking at this first set, 13 is a better representation of the data set than 10 or 15. So the median was the better one. However, it didn't match what either of these parties wanted. So that's what we'll see on part 2 of today's homework. Good luck.